Hey there, and welcome back to Stupid Game Experiments. My current stupid experiment is building the same game in 3 of the most popular game engines, Unity, Unreal, and Godot. The game is called SH++, and it's a cross between N++ and Asteroid. This is my 3rd weekly recap video covering all the development that's happened in the last week. But I also put up new videos every single day, so make sure you hit that subscribe button to see all the latest updates. I divide these weekly recap videos into 2 separate sections. The first half covers the development of the game features for SH++, and the second half covers my observations on the individual game engines. So without further ado, let's talk about SH++. As of last week, I had built the player's spaceship as well as the first 2 enemies, a space mine and a hunter enemy that chases the player if they get too close. I started out this week by creating the 2 goals a player needs to reach to complete each level. The first is the midpoint activation switch. When the player reaches this, it opens up the exit gate which the player needs to reach to complete the level. I patterned this off of N++, and it's a brilliant idea on their part. It gives you flexibility in how you want the player to travel the level, including going all the way across it and all the way back. The rest of the week I spent adding additional obstacles to the game. First was a simple spinner block to which other objects can be attached to create spinning obstacles. Next I created a laser beam that reaches clear across the map and kills the player on contact. Then I created 2 different types of crates to be floating physics objects. The first one just floats around, but the second blows up if the player hits it too fast. Finally I created 2 black hole objects that either pull the player in or push the player away. These aren't working quite as well as I intended, so I'm going to have to keep playing with the forces to get the effect I'm looking for. I have a handful of other enemies, obstacles, etc. that I plan on developing. However, I realized this week that all these objects sort of lose their effect when they're just existing in open space. So my hope this week is to start working on the level design system. I normally would have started with this, but I'm still considering eventually adding an in-game level editor, and I was trying to figure out how that would work. Even though I'm not going to build the level editor right now, I wanted to build the levels in such a way as to make this possible in the future. I got that mostly figured out last week, so I'll start testing it this week and see how it goes. Hopefully creating some demo levels will make the gameplay footage look more interesting. So far, I'm still making good progress with the game, which is encouraging. I'm always a little worried that I'll run into some unknown problem with one of the game engines and it will drastically slow down development. That hasn't happened yet, and hopefully that trend will continue for at least another week. On that note, let's move on to the game engines. This week, I'm going to focus mostly on Unreal Engine because I didn't really talk much about it last week, and there were some sad Unreal noises in the comments from it being left out. In short, Unreal has completely exceeded my expectations so far. I'm going to explain why in a moment, but first let me preface this by saying I am much more familiar with Unreal than I am with Unity or Godot. I don't think that's affecting my experience too much because I intentionally set my expectations for Unreal much higher than I did for Unity or Godot. However, it does mean that I may be missing things in Unity or Godot that would make the experience with those engines much better. If you're a Unity or Godot developer and you see something that I either missed or got wrong, please point it out in the comments. It has already happened in previous videos and it gives me the opportunity to make corrections in follow-up videos. Okay, back to why Unreal has exceeded my expectations. First, I chose to do a 2D game for this comparison because I thought that the 2D specific features in Unity and Godot would give them an advantage in that type of game. However, it really hasn't. In fact, using 3D tools to build a 2D game in Unreal has actually been easier in some ways. In Unity, there's been a couple of times when having different classes for 2D and 3D screwed things up, or a solution that worked in 3D wouldn't work in 2D. In Unreal, I'm using all the same code and components I'm used to. I've just locked their axes and rotation so they stay on a 2D plane. There are, however, some caveats to this. First, I haven't required any 2D specific components such as animated sprites or tile maps, where Unity and Godot's built-in components would make things easier. Second, using 2D specific assets may require less processing power for a game. I haven't gotten far enough along yet in the project to really test this out, so I don't know how much of an effect this would actually have on performance, but it will be something to look at in the future. The second reason Unreal has exceeded my expectations is that Blueprints is so much easier to use than coding in Unity or Godot. It's much more than just the difference between a visual scripting language and reading code. Using Blueprints in Unreal, if I rename something or move a component around, any changes are automatically propagated throughout the code. I don't have to go find them all and update them myself. If I want to know what the inputs and outputs for a function are, I just pull up the node and everything is listed there. I don't have to go reading through the documentation to figure it out. These may seem like minor conveniences, and I definitely took them for granted, but comparing the experience side by side with trying to write code in the other 2 engines makes me really appreciate how attached I've become to these minor conveniences. Some people might say that it's unfair to compare Blueprints to C# or GD script, especially when both Unity and Godot have some version of visual scripting languages. I understand this. However, the comparison I'm making here is between the primary scripting languages for each game engine. If you go looking for tutorials in Unreal Engine, they will generally be shown in Blueprints, whereas Unity and Godot tutorials are generally in C# and GD script respectively. Therefore, I think this comparison is the one that is most likely to reflect most people's experience with each engine. The final reason Unreal has exceeded my expectations is one that most newbie developers likely aren't concerned about, but that that I've been stressing a lot on this channel. In my first video talking about these 3 game engines, I said the biggest difference between Unreal and the other 2 engines is that Unreal has an entire game framework built into it that you just have to learn how to use, whereas the other 2 engines require you to build your own framework from scratch. I spent the last week trying to learn best practices and design patterns for Unity and Godot. And while I've learned a lot, having to try to figure out how to make a framework for a game by myself has really made me appreciate having one already built and tested for me in Unreal. All of that being said, while Unreal has so far exceeded my expectations, I'm not giving up on Unity or Godot either. I'm going to keep investing time in learning the strengths of both of them so that I can fully understand the differences between the 3 engines. To that end, if you're a Godot or Unity developer, please take a couple moments to tell me in the comments what you think are the best advantages for your favorite game engine. That, however, wraps up this week of development for SH++ in Unreal, Unity, and Godot. If you're enjoying these weekly recaps, make sure you let me know by hitting that like button. Also, don't forget that I put up new videos every single day, so if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out. If you need to get caught up on previous videos, there's a link to the full playlist in the description below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.